Hello everyone, greetings to everyone. This is Dr. Supreet from University of Delhi. Today we'll be talking about the foreign trade, and within foreign trade we'll be talking about the exchange rate management system. How did that journey happen? When we're talking about exchange rate management, how did that convertibility, whether we talk about partial convertibility or full convertibility, what has been its journey? When we were able to come out of that Bretton Woods system, right? What was the reason for the failure of Bretton Woods system? So we are going to take up these topics one by one today in detail, and we are going to discuss that what is LERMS, right? And when did we opted for partial convertibility, when did we opted for full convertibility of the exchange system. So, what happened before this First World War, prior to that, the entire world was there with having the gold standards, which was for which the currency in circulation was, somehow allowed that it will be converted either in gold or some other currencies based on to the gold standard only, right? So, this was the scenario where the currency was pegged against your gold standards. But right after the failure of your Bretton Woods system, which happened in 1971, the entire system has changed, right? So when we say that, that there being a time now presently when we talk about that the money is convertible against any other foreign exchange currency, so this was not a case since ages. So it has traversed its journey. So presently when we say that convertibility of money, which implies that there is a system where the country's currency, it has become convertible in foreign exchange, and since 1994 if we say about Indian currency, it has been made fully convertible with respect to current account transactions. So this has been a proper evolution. It's been a journey where right from the gold standards we came to a system, starting up from the fixed exchange, or you could say rate system, to a floating exchange risk system, wherein in between we had the LERMS also, right? So what happened is that, as I said, that before, prior to this World War, we had this system wherein gold standards were used to exchange the currency. So later on what happened, there was collapse of Bretton Woods system, which was because this gold standard system was decided in this Bretton Woods conference, that the countries, majorly those 44 countries that come in alliance, that they'll be exchanging their currency with their measure that will be pegged against their gold standards, right? With the gold would be used as a convertibility measure. But later on, when the Bretton Woods conference system, it collapsed in 1971, various countries which were a party to the same, they switched over to various floating foreign exchange rate system. And what happened under this floating exchange rate system is that the exchange rates between different national currencies, they were allowed that they can be determined through market demand for the for supply and buying the same. So the system has actually evolved, it has changed over the time period, right? From the standard when we had the gold standards, then we moved to a system that your currency is partially convertible, then to a system that it is fully convertible. And when we say about fully convertible, the fully convertibility with respect to the Indian denomination is there with respect to current account transactions. There are limitations with respect to capital account transactions. Now, what are current account, what are capital account transactions, will be covering up in the coming segment. So, when we say that, when was our Indian rupee made convertible, it happened in the Union Budget of 92-93, when this Indian rupee was made partially convertible. and this move, when it was convertible for partially, this is actually taken as a big move, and we can say it that it is being for the expeditious integration of the entire economy with that of the other parts of the world, so that whatever current account deficits were occurring in the balance of accounts or balance of payments per se, the government of India did what? It introduced the partial convertibility from your March 1992 onwards, because it was introduced in the Union Budget of 92-93. So, that makes it what? That this money will not just be partially this will be partially convertible for that time period, because presently it is fully convertible. So, under this system which is there, which remained in operation for a period of 1 year, what happened? This 60% of the exchange earnings, they were convertible in rupees at the market determined exchange rate. That means the price that is being computed by the market forces, and the remaining 40% earnings, they were converted as per the you could say the rate that is being determined officially by the exchange rate. So, there, that is why we see that there is a partial system. 60% of the currencies we are converting as per the market rate, but for the remaining 40% the rates were fixed, right. So, that is why it is said that the convertibility was there indeed, but that convertibility was partial in nature. We were not fully allowing the convertibility at that time period of 92. It was only partially introduced, wherein 60% was allowed as per your market forces, and remaining 40% was to be as per the fixed mechanism, that okay, let the government forces, let the government be deciding about the exchange rate, and at that price the transaction will take place, right. Now, when we say convertibility, convertibility has a wider connotation, in a sense is that any currency of any country can easily be converted into the currency of the other country, right. That is what convertibility you can refer to. At present, you see, it is very easy to convert the Indian rupee into US dollars. Similarly, it is very easy to convert the US dollars into the Indian currency, right. So, per se, let us say you want to convert the Indian currency into UK currency, or you want to convert it into some other nation's currency. So, that can easily be done in the present times, because that convertibility is fully allowed. That convertibility is free from any sort of restrictions that could somehow restrict its convertibility, that have been removed at the present time. But this had not been the scenario since ages. So, when we talk about this journey, tracing out this journey, we see that this convertibility can be identified as one wherein all the quantitative restrictions on the trade and the payment on specifically on current account transactions were removed. So, that is why we say that convertibility is one wherein we are removing all sort of your restrictions, any sort of your monetary quantitative restrictions that were applicable on trade and payments on current account nature, that were totally removed, right. So, convertibility does what does? It creates a mechanism actually wherein this market price is determined as per the, you could say, the interplay of these free forces of demand and supply. So, how does it happens? जो market में आपका depending upon the demand and supply forces, there is this interplay between the two, and through that you come to know about okay, this is what is the exchange rate of Indian currency or the US currency or any other country's currency per se, right. So, that is how that convertibility does what is, it establishes a system wherein these market forces determine upon the prices of the currency, right. Next is when we talk about that, what is current account convertibility? Current account convertibility and capital account convertibility, there is a difference between the two. So, when we say that presently we are fully convertible, the currency is fully convertible, that is with respect to your current account transactions, that is with not respect to your these capital account transactions. Now, what are your current account convertibility? It basically is that you remove all the restrictions on the payments that you make for the international exchange of goods and services. That means what? That whenever there is an international transaction that is taking place, then there will be fully convertibility of the same that will be possible. That means you are removing all the obstructions, you are eliminating all the impediments that are causing the problems for this convertibility to take place. So, whatever international exchange of goods, services, factor incomes you take place, the transaction for the same. So, those are considered as your current account transactions, and for the same, that convertibility when we talk about, we say that all the restrictions onto the same will be removed. Similarly, when we say capital account convertibility, it refers to that similar liberalization or the removal of the restrictions of a capital transaction. For capital transactions are your long run, basically majorly long run, for example, for any loans, for any investments. So, those are your capital account transactions. So, presently what is the problem is that the currency is partially it's fully convertible, but for current account convertibility, and it's not allowed for your capital account convertibility. So, that being the scenario. So, this is the difference between current account transactions convertibility and capital account transactions convertibility. In current account convertibility, you go for the transactions that is for the goods, services or factor incomes, and in case of your capital accounts convertibility, you go for the transactions that is for loan, that is for investments, whether it be your short term or your long term, right. So, when we say that the rupee is fully convertible, it is convertible, again I repeat, with respect to current account transactions, right. Now, we say that India's exchange rate policy, it has evolved, and it has evolved in tandem with both the domestic and international developments. That means the period which is right after your independence, which is we can associate it with the fixed exchange rates regime, which is there as per your Bretton Woods system that was there way back. So, for which 44 countries almost were a part of the same. So, what happens that initially what happened in that India's exchange rate policy, it evolved from that time period jahan par it was being first aligned with a fixed exchange rate system, which is in as per the terms of your Bretton Woods system, and then this Indian rupee was pegged to the pound sterlings because of our historic links at that time with the Britain, right. So, after this breakdown happened, that US stepped out of the same because of the current because of the deficit into the balance of payment accounts. So, which was not possible to peg against gold standards. So, after that US stepped out of the same, and similarly various other nations, they stepped out of the same, which leads to the breakdown of your Bretton Woods system into early 70s, and then the countries, they moved to a more flexible system, which is sort of a managed system, wherein we talk about all these convertibility that we discussed earlier. So, what happened at that time is कि ठीक है, initially we had that fixed system जहाँ पर हम gold standards को refer कर रहे हैं, we are talking about your Bretton Woods system, but later on we move to this structure जहाँ पर this Bretton Woods system actually breaks down and we comes out of the same, and then we move to a more robust structure, in a sense it is more flexible, it is more manageable, right. So, and over the time period what happened, since we gained independence, so we were the share of Britain in India's trade, it started slipping down over the time period, in a sense is that initially we were restricted to fewer nations that we were having the trade with, and Britain was having a major share out of the same that India was having the trade right after the independence. So first 2-3, your first 5-year plans, India was predominantly having the trade with Britain, which over the time period it has plunged down, and there was a decline in the share of Britain in India's trade, and also the diversification of India to various other markets, or to having trade with various other parts of the world. So that increased diversification of India's international transaction, together with that it is this weakness of pegging to a single currency, where Indian rupee was done what is, later on it was delinked from this pound sterling, right. So what happened, we evolved. You can see the evolution, in a sense is we started from a gold standard, a fixed regime structure, then because of the fall in the share, we were pegged against one currency, that is the Britain's currency, that is the pound sterling. And over the period when there was a decline in the foreign trade with respect to our share of trade with the Britain, that decline leads to what? That when we were linked with that one currency, one single currency, that is pound sterling. So later on we did what is, we were opted out of the same. So the Indian rupee was delinked from the pound sterling in way back in September 75. So again, so this has become a major break point for India, because later on we moved to a system where we first partially allowed for a partial convertibility, then we moved on to a fuller convertibility of the money system. So the exchange rate subsequently, it is to be determined with reference to the daily exchange rate movements of an undisclosed. Now when we see undisclosed basket of currency, that means the trading will take place with various other parts of the world, which being, it's not just the Britain or US occupying the major share, but there are various other nations contributing their good set of, share into the basket of currencies. So India was subsequently doing what? It is, as a basket link management of the exchange, this management of the rupee, it did what? It is not able to capture the entire market dynamics, because again, it is like, set of countries will be, accordingly you will be managing out the exchange rate system of the rupee. So what happened over the time period, that these developments in the exchange rate of the different competing countries, the rupee's value was allowed to be determined as per the market forces, and that too it happened in a phased manner. That means ki over the time period when we first tested with adopting for such a mechanism, wherein we were going for a partial convertibility, and over the time period with evolution, with the increasing in the rising share of the trade, we moved to a mechanism where we opted for a fuller convertibility of the exchange rate, right. So a significant, you could say, journey has taken place when we are talking with respect to the exchange rate management system of India. So the very significant adjustment that happened was in 1991. Again, first is before the independence we were just there with gold standards. Then after independence, what happened now, that after when we come out of that system wherein we were just following a fixed structure, and we moved to a structure where we were just pegged against one currency, that is pound sterling, and later on in 1975 we were delinked from the same, right. And slowly what happened take place is we adopted the, we came in tandem with basket of currencies that were different currencies that are there, and accordingly as per the market forces the exchange rate was being decided. So it was not the case since ever. It was the point that bring this adjustment into the picture was in 1992. What happened is that in March 92 there was this introduction of LOMS. Now what is LOMS is? It is a liberalized exchange rate management system, wherein we do not just opt for either a fixed one or a flexible one structure, rather we go for a hybrid approach. Hybrid approach is in a sense is that we go for a very dual exchange rate system. That exchange rate system, dual exchange rate system was sort of instituted, and that leads to what, that there will be one unified single market determined exchange rate system for the demand or the supply of foreign exchange, and that needs to be replaced. And that needs to be replaced by what? We directly didn't move to your this fuller account convertibility. We adopted this LERMS for a time period, which was there effective in this period. And into that period, what happened, that it goes by a ratio. That ratio was taken into consideration, that since it talks about liberalized also, but it is a dual structure. So, it talks about both the liberalized and the fixed structure. So, RBI did what is, RBI in its exchange rate policy, it focused on to that ensuring such conditions for the foreign exchange market, and it basically emphasized on to monitoring the developments in the financial markets both domestically and internationally, and whenever needed it will intervene by buying or selling the foreign currencies, running those open market operations. So, the market operations, they are taken either directly or by through your these public sector banks. So, RBI's role has been very crucial. That intervention was very crucial, because it was through those intervention that exchange rate policy was able to take into consideration the changes into the financial markets, both domestic and the abroad. So, additionally, RBI also put into place the traditional instruments like your forward or swap contracts, and which actually facilitated RBI did what is, it facilitated the increased availability of derivative instruments in the foreign exchange market, through which that trading in rupee foreign currency swaps, foreign currency rupee swaps or options, cross currency options, interest rate swaps, currency swaps, or we talk about forward rate agreements or currency futures. So, that was made feasible through the intervention of the RBI. And why do RBI wants to do for the same, go for the same? Because through that, it will be managing the market forces, it will be doing all those operations through which there is increased availability of more set of derivative instruments. So, that is why not just those traditional forward or swap contracts, it also allowed for the trading in the rupee for your these currency swaps, these your currency rupee options, as I told, cross currency options or interest rate or forward rate agreements or the futures also. So, the additional sort of intervention sort of operations were taken up by the RBI, so that it can infuse the liquidity, or it can easily able to manage the market forces of demand and supply, right. Additionally, when we say that there being a journey of India, that from 1944 to 1992 we followed a very single structured fixed exchange rate system, wherein we were just pegging the currency against the gold standards, and then right after the Bretton Woods conference, the breakdown of the same Bretton Woods, we moved to linking the rupee against one currency, which is your pound sterling, and then delinking the same in 75, and then we moved to 92 to 93 time period when we had LERMS, right. And LERMS did what is, LERMS give you a sort of partial convertibility during that time period of 92 to 93, which was a sort of a dual structure, which allows for what, both mechanisms, fixed and the floating mechanism. So, how do we do it? That 60% of the currency will be market driven, and remaining 40% will be decided by the officials. So, that is a hybrid thing, hybrid formula that we opted for. But that formula was only for the transition phase, just to see out the a sort of a testing into the market, because later on we fully converted into a flexible exchange rate system. In 93 we did the same, we opted for a flexible exchange rate system. So this being the journey wherein transitory phase came in between your 92 to 93, wherein these LOMs was opted and the rupee was made partially convertible with the adoption of a dual structure, both which talks about 60-40 ratio, because ultimate aim is that okay, this is a transition phase and we will be moving to a point when there will be 100% of flexible exchange rate system. That means the entire operations of the exchange rate system will be managed by the market forces, right. So this has been the journey of your exchange rate management system, wherein various concepts tried and tested, be it your fixed system, be it your loans, be it your going for marking or pegging it against one single currency. So that being the journey of your exchange rate management system. And additionally, Indian rupee is a partially convertible currency initially, and that later become a fully convertible currency. That means that it would increase the liquidity into financial markets, and it will also do what? It will improve your employment, business opportunities, will ensure that you have better access to capital, right, and an easier access to the capital also. So we'll be doing we'll be continuing about this exchange rate management system, the various recommendations of Tarapur committee, and how did we adopted them in the coming segment. So we'll be starting up with the second segment soon.